and we're continuing with our 9th chapter of this divine Shastra, this Adi-lila, this Caitanya Caritamrta. So I'll begin. Agyan timirandasya gyananjala shalakaya chakshu unmilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Gurave gaurachandraya radhikaya tadalaye krishnaya krishna bhaktaya thara bhaktaya namo namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobishtam shtapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati shvapadantikam. Adadanastranam drantiya idam yache puna puna Srimad Rupa Padambojo Dulishyam Janma Janmani. Priya Sarupe, Dayita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajabi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhuveka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavilasa Rupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunavaratinokkalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Sva Bhakti Shriyam Haripurata Sundarata Dikatamba Sadipita Sadakshadare Kandare Spiratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Prabhajantamanapetyam Apetikritiam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti tam matayo tarvo vinirustam sarvaputam hridim munimanatoshmi Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay Shiptascha karmadi taranga mahdye Kripamai tvam sharanam prapana Prinde namaste charanarabindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna baradram Tato mamanasti katyena kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam naivam charnantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Nitya-lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my Sastang Dandavats unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and to all our Rupanuga Guruvari and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees, my Dandavat pranams. Vansha kalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhuvevacha, patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we're in this 9th chapter, and we can appreciate the structure from where we've come. We started off with glorifying the spiritual masters. Nothing can transpire without connection to Sri Guru, who ultimately is Nityananda, Baladev, Akhanda Guru Mula Tattva. All existence is manifesting from Nityananda. So he's the platform. Everything has to begin there. So Srila Krishna's Kaviraj begins with the making the foundation of the spiritual masters. And then he makes the second substantial foundation of establishing Sri Krishna as that Supreme Lord, Ete Kamsa Kala Pumsam, Krishna Stu Bhagavam Swayam. And who is that Lord? That Lord is directly Sri Sachinandan Gaurahari. So these two pillars are constructed initially. And then the external reasons for Mahaprabhu's manifesting are described in the 3rd chapter. Then the 4th chapter is Mahaprabhu's internal reasons. This is all very systematic. Why should we continue reading unless we know the identity of Mahaprabhu? So he's established as that supreme person, and then the specific confidential reasons why he advented are so important for the Shishya to appreciate. We spend our life reflecting on these topics of why Mahaprabhu manifested. Mahaprabhu is the Yuga Dharma, the Yuga avatar of this age. So he is like ours. He belongs to us. We're from this age. So we want to appreciate every aspect about him. So after the fourth chapter, where the very principles of devotion performed by the gopis of Vrindavan is established, our path very clear, this path of Gopi Bhav, that's very clearly described in the fourth chapter. So we're getting a feeling already how confidential this literature is. And then we get to the fifth chapter, and now it's going to describe the Angas of Mahaprabhu. That first Anga is Nityananda Prabhu. And then we come to Advaita Acharya, this second great personality with the Panchatattva, because they all manifest simultaneously, these five truths of the Panchatattva. And then the sixth chapter is describing, that was Advaita Acharya. Then the seventh chapter is describing the Panchatattva, but the amazing pastime of defeating the Mayavads in Varanasi. So this was in that seventh chapter. So then we come to the eighth chapter, and the how Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj began this literature, how he began the literature on the order of all the Vaishnavas. And we spoke a lot about Chaitanya Bhagavat in this eighth chapter. And right at the end, it's concluded that actually Madan Mohan is that potency that is empowering this whole Shastra. So this is where we scrolled to. And now we've come to the desire tree of devotional service. Now all the devotees are going to be spoken about and glorified. So it's very systematic, beautiful wave that we're able to bathe ourselves in, this transcendental literature. So the devotees we discussed yesterday were Paramananda Puri and Keshav Bharati and Brahmanand Bharati and Brahmananda Puri. So these personalities were discussed. So now today we're carrying on from here. This tree, this beautiful transcendental tree, which manifests from this material world through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and reaches across to the spiritual world. It's practically like a transcendental bridge that is manifesting, and we all have this opportunity to walk on this bridge to the spiritual reality if we want to turn our backs on the illusion. But we're so much attracted and attached to the illusion of our bodily material identity and everything that goes along with that. We're so conditioned that we don't sometimes even want to get onto the bridge to walk into this transcendental land. We do in one sense, but we don't want to give up what is necessary, which is the material illusion. Unless the material illusion is parked, is given up, then how can you actually cross the bridge into transcendence? We're always holding on to it. So this tree is growing and it's blossoming, and all the fruits are going to be described. So we'll start again from text 16 today. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Text 16. Madhya Mula Paramananda Puri Mahadira Astadike Astamula Vriksha Koila Stira. Translation. With the sober and grave Paramananda Puri as the central root and the other 8 roots in the 8 directions, the tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood firm. So these pillars, it was described in the previous verse, of these different sannyasis. Paramananda Puri, Keshava Bharati, Brahmananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, and then Vishnu Puri, Keshava Puri, Krishnananda, Nrsingatirtha, Sukhananda. So all of these 8 sannyasis constitute the root of this tree. Text 17. Skandarero parabahu saka upajila upari saka asankhya hayila. Translation. From the trunk grew many branches, and above them innumerable others. Text 18. Visha saka kari eka mandal maha saka chaile brahmananda sakal. Translation. Thus the branches of the Caitanya tree formed a cluster or society with great branches covering all the universe. Purport. Our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is one of the branches of the Caitanya Caritamrta, Caitanya tree. My Gurudev has said that all mats actually are a part of this international Krishna consciousness. If we start to think sectarianly, oh, this is my mat, they are different from what I'm doing, and so on, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that sectarianism is the greatest enemy of the truth. So we must be very cautious. If anyone is glorifying Krishna in any way, we should be supportive of that glorification. Mahaprabhu wants this, these fruits to manifest all over the world, and they're all going to manifest in their individual ways, just like the individual devotees themselves all have their individual rasas. So there will be scope and space. It's not like the military, where everyone is walking in dead line, even though it looks like that. Sometimes we all wear the same tilak, the same cloth, shaved head, and it appears to be all the same, marching to the same tune, Hare Krishna mantra, reading the same book, Bhagavad Gita, but everyone has a speciality, a vaishishya about them. And the groups, etc., the various groups of devotees, they will be following particular aspects of those teachings. Of course, there is the ultimate shastric conclusions that are channeled down from Rupa Goswami and all our other Guru Varga. And if someone is practicing not within those parameters, then we don't need to spend so much time with them. But we don't have to spend time criticizing them or pointing out their defects. Krishna himself can arrange for them to be enlightened in whichever way. Our mission is not to run around and bang everyone on the head and tell them that they're not doing the right thing. Our mission is to actually personally be following carefully and be speaking with those who are swajatiya. That means in the same group, snigdha, affectionate, and ashraya, who we feel are more senior. This is the description of how to associate swajatiya, snigdha, and ashraya. Jat means same group. Those people who have understood that Mahaprabhu's gift is to give this manjari balm, then that company I will be more comfortable in. But other companies I don't need to criticize. Criticism we've already discussed in the previous chapter, chapter 8, about the blasphemy of those devotees who in their own way are spreading Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very, very cautious of that. Our material proclivity is to criticize and judge. So that must be purified strongly. Text 19. Ekaki sakate upasakat sata shata yata upajila saka ke kambe kata. From each branch grew many hundreds of sub-branches. No one can count how many branches thus grew. Text 20. Mukhya saka janara namaga agana ageta kariva sana vrikshare varana. Translation. I shall try to name the foremost of the innumerable branches. Please hear the description of the Caitanya tree. So now all the devotees are going to be manifested. Now we've substantiated the followers, we've substantiated the philosophy, so to speak, and now who are those who are following? Who should we follow? Text 21. Vrikshasera uparasaka haile du iskanda eka advaita nama are nityananda.
On the top of the tree, the trunk branched into two. One trunk was named Sri Advaita Prabhu and the other Sri Nityananda Prabhu. This is the Advaita Vams and the Nityananda Vams, or the Advaita Parivar and the Nityananda Parivar. These are the families of Advaita, the families of Nityananda. And there's some distinction, there's some Vaishishtya. We should always remember this word. What does Vaishishtya mean? Speciality. There's a speciality. It's not that one is completely right and the other is wrong. It's a speciality, Vaishishtya. Not one inferior or one superior like that. Text 22.
Sedu iskanda bahu saka upajila, tara upasaka gane jagata chaila.
Translation. From these two trunks grew many branches and sub-branches that covered the entire world. Text 23.
Bada saka upasaka tara upasaka yatta upajila tare ke karibes leka.
Translation. These branches and sub-branches and their sub-branches became so numerous that no one can actually write about them.
Shishya prashishya ara upashishya gana jagat vyapila tara nikya nahika ganana.
Translation. Thus the disciples and the grand-disciples and their admirers spread throughout the entire world, and it is not possible to enumerate them all. Text 25.
Udambara vriksha yena phala sarva ange e mata bhakti vriksha sarvatra phalas lage.
Translation. As a big fig tree bears fruits all over its body, each part of the tree of devotional service bore fruit. Purport. The tree of devotional service is not of this material world. It grows in the spiritual world where there is no distinction between one part of the body and another. It is something like a tree of sugar. For whichever part of the tree one tastes, it is always sweet. The tree of bhakti has varieties of branches, leaves, and fruits, but they are all meant for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 9 different processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But all of them are meant only for the service of the Supreme Lord. When we think about the gopis and their enormous energy for service. We described yesterday about the kinkaris. What shall I do? What shall I do? That's the meaning of kinkari. What shall I do? The gopis are the same. What shall I do? How can I serve? What shall I do? So this mood is the mood of the purified shishya, the purified disciple. Therefore, whether one hears, chants, remembers, or worships, his activities will yield the same result. In other words, what we've just said, this is not sectarian. If someone prefers to spend their lives in kirtan, that is wonderful. If someone spends their lives in remembrance, that is also wonderful. Or prayers. Prahlad Maharaj perfected his life with Vandanam, Archaman, Artis, Dasyam, Sakyam. So each of these are the 9 limbs, and you can perfect your life by performing any one of these limbs. Which one of these processes will be the most suitable for a particular devotee depends on his taste. Yes, we are all individual. Don't try and crush everyone together like that. The world today, because of its being run by demons, we should understand it's Kali Yuga, and the demonic elements have their sway in this Kali Yuga, and they can feel more control for the general mass of people if they try and bunch them into the same group. They're more easy to manipulate with all the various fearful laws and rules and regulations that they put out, eroding the individuality. All of their intentions is to take away the individuality of the person, and then they can have more control, because the groups themselves will automatically they'll make their own control in the group. Do you understand? The groups themselves will be saying, oh, you should do like this, you should do like this, and everyone will be saying should, and just pushing everyone more and more in a group. And these cell phones are their principal weapon. Text 26. Mula skandara saka ara upasaka gana lagila ye prema phala amritaka jina. Translation: since Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the original trunk, the taste of the fruits that grew on the branches and sub-branches surpassed the taste of nectar. What is that taste? That taste is of that service to Sri Radhika. This is ultimately the taste. Service to Sri Radhika is the most intoxicating taste. Mahaprabhu is doing that himself. So that's the fruit he himself is cultivating. And Rupa Goswami is encouraging through the teachings of Mahaprabhu for the whole world to take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Radhika. Text 27. Pakila ye prema phala amrita madhurya vilaya chaitanya mali nahilaya mula. Translation: the fruits ripened and became sweet and nectarine. The gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed them without asking any price. Text 28. Tri jagatyata achetana ratnamani eka falera mulyakari taha nahi gani. Translation: all the wealth in the three worlds cannot equal the value of one such nectarian fruit of devotional service. All the wealth in the world. This is such a valuable jewel, a valuable fruit that we have access to today. So we must value it highly and honor anyone else who is also appreciating the value of that fruit. Text 29. Mage vana mage kahe patra va apatra tahare vichare nahi jane deye matra. Translation: not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit or who was unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. This is contrary to Krishna. Krishna says, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. As you surrender unto me, then I will give you that. Mahaprabhu is not saying like that. He's saying, even if you don't surrender to me, I'll still give you the fruit. The sannyasis in Varanasi were not surrendering unto Mahaprabhu, but still he forcefully came into their presence and gave them that fruit. Purport. This is the sum and substance of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. There is no distinction made between those who are fit and those who are not fit to hear or take part in the Sankirtan movement. It should therefore be preached without discrimination. The only purpose of the preachers of the Sankirtan movement must be to go on preaching without restriction. That is the way in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced this Sankirtan movement in the world. And we ourselves should not become caught up thinking that, oh, I am a greater preacher than this person or this person. If we're constantly considering the pecking order, so to speak, it's going to lead to conflict. It must do. So this point of Vaishishthya, speciality. We often see like a new person just comes into the Sangha. We have no idea where that person's coming from, what particular birth he may have been previously, etc. But if honor is given, then all success will manifest towards that, for that person and for the group itself. Text 30. Anjali Anjali Bare Fela Chatur Dishe Daridra Kudana Kaye Malakara Hashe. Translation. The Transcendental Gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of fruit in all directions. And when the poor, hungry people ate the fruit, the gardeners smiled with great pleasure. So when we take to this process, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to be very satisfied, and Guru will be satisfied. Text 31.
Malakara kahe suna vriksha parivar mulaksaka upasaka yateka prakar.
Translation. Lord Chaitanya thus addressed the multifarious varieties of branches and sub-branches of the tree of devotional service. Text 32.
Alokika vrikshakare sarvendriya karma sarva starva hayi dara jagamane mera dama.
Translation. Since the tree of devotional service is transcendental, every one of its parts can perform the action of all the others. Although a tree is supposed to be immovable, this tree nevertheless moves. Purport. It is our experience in the material world that trees stand in one place, but in the spiritual world, a tree can go from one place to another. Therefore, everything in the spiritual world is called alokika, uncommon and transcendental. Another feature of such a tree is that it can act universally. In the material world, the roots of a tree go deep within the earth to gather food. But in the spiritual world, the twigs, branches, and leaves of the upper portion of the tree can act like roots. Sometimes we see the tree reflected in a lake, and it appears that the roots are going down, but of course it's going upwards. This is described in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So, yes. Text 33.
E vrikshera anga hai sabha se chaitana badiya vyapila sabha sakala bhuvana.
Translation. All the parts of this tree are spiritually cognizant, and thus they grow, and thus, as they grow, they spread all over the world. So all of these hearts that have been touched by sadhus, they will spread that beauty and sweetness across the planet automatically. Because once you come into contact with this philosophy and you realize the principal teaching, which is we are spirit and not matter, that is the first platform. And then when this teaching is gradually introduced, it starts to erode our dependence on our material bodies and our material situations, and then we can get in touch with our real identity as the spirit soul. Text 34.
Ekala malakara ami kahan yaba ekala dva kata phala padiya vilaba.
Translation. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? Purport. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicates that the distribution of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be performed by combined forces. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he laments, how can I act alone? How can I alone pick the fruit and distribute it all over the world? This indicates that all classes of devotees should combine and distribute the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without consideration of the time, place, or situation, or group that we think we're in. All should drop our sectarian conceptions and understand this amazing gift is for the entire world and for all spirit souls. So in that mood, we should endeavor to spread this movement. Text 35.
Ekala uttana dite hoya parishram kahe paya kahe na paya kurahe mana brahm.
It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone, and still I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Text 36.
Ataiva ami agni dilun sabakara yahan tahan prema phala deha yara tara. tare. Sabakari tare.
Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. This is the cry of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He's begging everyone to distribute this wealth. And because the chemistry is, by distributing, we also receive. As much as you can distribute, that much you will be reimbursed. In this connection, there is a song sung by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Eche Oshadi Maya Nashi Bara Lagi Harinama Mahamantra Lai Tuma Magi Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Patiya Se Harinama Mantra Lai Lila Magia.
The Sankirtan movement has been introduced by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to dispel the illusion of Maya, by which everyone in this material world thinks himself to be a product of matter, and therefore to have many duties pertaining to the body, like eating, shopping, cooking, all these things. All of these are material matters. Actually, the living entity is not his material body. He is a spirit soul. He has a spiritual need to be eternally blissful and full of knowledge. This is a need. This is the urgency that the sadhak hooks into, so to speak. This urgency of connecting with that eternally blissful and knowledgeable conception of the spiritual reality. It's there. We become so hungry for it. We become addicted to searching for it, to experiencing it. But unfortunately, he identifies himself with a body, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes a tree, sometimes an aquatic, sometimes a demigod, and so on. Thus, with each change of body, he develops a different type of consciousness with different types of activities, and thus becomes increasingly entangled in material existence, transmigrating perpetually from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya or illusion, he does not consider the past or future, but is simply satisfied with the short lifespan that he has gotten for the present. He is making all our plans and dramas just for this present existence, not for our future spiritual growth. To eradicate this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the Sankirtan movement, and he requests everyone to accept and distribute it. A person who is actually a follower of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. That's all. Text 37.
Ekala malakara ame kata fala kaba Naidiya va e fala araki kariba.
Translation. I am the only gardener. If I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? Purport. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu produced so many fruits of devotional service that they must be distributed all over the world. Otherwise, how could he alone relish and taste each and every fruit? The original reason that Lord Chaitanya descended as Lord Krishna descended as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and to taste that love. This is the principal reason for Mahaprabhu's descent, as we've said. Nothing else. He gives the Hare Krishna mantra to access this realm of the divine love between Radha and Krishna. I'll read that again. Lord Krishna descended as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The original reason that Lord Sri Krishna descended as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and to taste that love. The fruits of the tree of devotional service were innumerable, and therefore he wanted to distribute them unrestrictedly to everyone. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore writes, Anapita chirim chirat karuna vartinokalo Samarapaitam unnata ujvala rasam swabhakti shriyam Haripurata sundaratuti katambasatipita sadakradare kandare spuratu vasachinandanaha. This verse, of course, is written by Rupa Goswami in his introduction to Vidagdha Madhav. And Srila Krishna's Kaviraj, he quotes this verse 3 times in honor of Rupa Goswami. And this verse is very clearly describing this Swabhakti Shriyam, which is Krishna's own bhakti, the beauty of Krishna's bhakti. Krishna's bhakti is Radha, and the beauty of her bhakti is her maidservants, her confidential maidservants, particularly the Manjaris. This is what Mahaprabhu has come to distribute. This is in the words of Rupa Goswami. There were many previous incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but none were so generous, kind, and magnanimous as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for he distributed the most confidential aspect of devotional service, namely the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. So all of the other avatars of Krishna were worshipped for the male aspect. None of them, their consorts, were separately worshipped. It's only in Krishna Lila when it's explained, because when Krishna performed these pastimes, they weren't explained during Krishna's Lila. He's come to taste these pastimes, and the Vrindavan pastimes were not broadcast. No one knew about them. It's only Mahaprabhu who broke that confidentiality open and revealed the nature of Parakiya Bhav in Braj Dan. Therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada desires that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu live perpetually in the hearts of all devotees, for thus they can understand and relish the loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. So this is the heart, the very heart of our movement conception, where we're going, etc. So beautifully opened up by Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Text 38. Atma ichamrita vriksha sunchi narantara tahate ashankaya phala vriksharer upara. By the transcendental desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, water has been sprinkled all over the tree, and thus there are innumerable fruits of love of Godhead. Every single individual soul who hears this philosophy can begin his journey to tasting that confidential exchange between Radha and Krishna through their service, ultimately to Sri Radhika. This Gopi Prem can be accessed by steady practice. This is Mahaprabhu's gift. God is unlimited, and his desires are also unlimited. This example of unlimited fruits is factually appropriate even within the material context. For with the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there can be enough fruits, grain, and other foodstuffs produced so that all the people in the world could not finish them, even if they ate 10 times their capacity. In this material world, there is actually no scarcity of anything but Krishna consciousness. If people become Krishna conscious by the transcendental will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there will be enough foodstuffs produced so that people will have no economic problems at all. We see that our government leaders just revolve around this idea of economic development. This is all they talk about. Therefore, that same conception filters down to the whole society. So the whole society is mad for economic development. That's the principle, and they believe that with more wealth, they will be able to get more pleasure. But the real truth is they'll be more entangled in this material world. They'll have more material desires. The more wealth you have, the more material desires you have. If suddenly you get, win the jackpot, so to speak, of $100,000, whatever, then you'll suddenly have 100,000 extra desires that you didn't have before. So the wealth, material wealth, is just going to entangle us more deeply. So we're not necessarily looking to throw whatever resources come our way. We're going to utilize them in the service of Krishna. Everything is service. This is the principle of love, loving service. And Lord Balaram, he teaches this. We discussed on Balaram's appearance day. He's intoxicated. Nityananda Prabhu is intoxicated with seva to the Lord. Nityananda, eternal bliss he's feeling through that constant, eager, enthusiastic service. What to speak of the gopis? What to speak of the kinkaris? Completely intoxicated with service to Sri Radhika. If people become Krishna conscious by the transcendental will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there will be enough foodstuffs produced so that all people will have no economic problems at all. One can very easily understand this fact. The production of fruits and flowers depends not upon our will, but upon the Supreme Will, the Personality of Godhead. If He is pleased, He can supply enough fruits and flowers, etc. But if people are atheistic and godless, then nature, by His will, restricts the supply of food. For example, in several provinces in India, especially Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and other adjoining states, there is sometimes a great scarcity of foodstuffs due to lack of rainfall. So-called scientists and economists cannot do anything about this. Therefore, to solve all problems, one must seek the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming Krishna conscious and worshipping Him regularly in devotional service. We see at the time of Prithu Maharaj, this Shakti Vaishya avatar, that Mother Earth was withholding all the fruits and herbs, etc., and grains, because no proper yajna had been going on, because King Vena, that evil king, had ruled for a whole generation, and the Brahmin class of people had been oppressed. So Mother Earth, she retained all these fruits and grains and herbs, etc. Then Prithu Maharaj, being a great Shakti Vaishya avatar, he took his mighty bow and arrow and he threatened Mother Earth. And she became a cow and he chased her all over the universe. And eventually she turns and surrenders very beautifully to him. And then Prithu Maharaj demands that she again allows the fruits and grains to manifest in the world. And Mother Earth, she directs Prithu Maharaj to milk her in various forms. And various individuals come and they milk Mother Earth for the fruits that they desire. Even the demons milk with an iron bucket, it's described, because they want the intoxicating beverages. And all the other, Brihaspati, he milks, the demigods milk. So everyone milks Mother Earth. But this was caused by no yajna was taking place. And at this time in Kali Yuga, if there's drought and disaster, it is because of lack of Krishna consciousness only, always. Therefore, to solve all problems, one must seek the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming Krishna conscious and worshipping Him regularly in devotional service. I mean, it's such a simple process, so beautifully explained, but because we're so addicted to our material senses, finding pleasure in the material world, we can't walk that road. Text 39. Ataiva shava phala deha yare tare kahaya aha uka lake ajara amare. Translation: distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is saying like this. Purport: the Krishna consciousness movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya is extremely important because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, and old age. We wake up our eternal nature, where the body, we know it's material, so will die, but the eternal spirit soul will be awake and be awake in its natural activity of serving the Divine Lord in many different types of rasas, etc. But Mahaprabhu is indicating that the highest rasa is to worship Sri Radhika through her Sakhis, that this is the highest goal. People do not recognize that the real distress in life, or distresses in life, are the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. They are so foolish that they resign themselves to these four miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we see people so much engaged in these material activities. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from all misery. And because they are enchanted by the illusory energy, people do not take this movement seriously. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. If we ourselves are becoming serious students, that gravity or seriousness will be acknowledged and recognized by those who are languishing in the material moods. They will see the intensity and purity of those who are following and become influenced by that. Because at the moment they're just being influenced by demonic leaders, the globalists, etc. But if the devotees begin more vigorously preaching, which the devotees are, I believe, all over the planet, actually the demons are very afraid of the devotees because they know the devotees are not afraid of them. The devotees have no fear of the demons at all. So fear and control are the two principal weapons of the demons. So if we kowtow to their fear, then we're going to be overwhelmed by them. So we should never ever be fearful of these demonic elements in the world around us. Of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement. But if even a small number of human beings take it seriously, then by their chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. So we see like the general mass of people, so to speak, is being influenced by the loudest voice of the demons telling them to enjoy matter. But when the devotees raise their voices in Sankirtan, this can influence those innocent people to be attracted to Krishna, this divine path. By nature, everyone is a devotee, ultimately, by nature. But because of the influences of the environment, they have distorted that nature. This is called nishag. It's called an acquired nature. But the real nature, the swabhav, the real nature, is purely spiritual. Then by chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur how he was to benefit living entities other than humans, Srila Haridas Thakur replied that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit, including the lower species of life. So it's our duty to chant this mantra loudly for our own benefit and for the benefit of all the living entities around us. Text 40.
Jagata vyapya piyaya piya vyapya murakabe puna kyati sukhya hai loka mora kahipeka kirti.
If the fruits are distributed all over the world, my reputation as a pious man will be known everywhere, and thus all people will glorify my name with great pleasure. Purport. This prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is now actually coming to pass. This is written 55 years ago, and we can see how much has manifested since this time. Just in 50 short years, how much of this Krishna consciousness influence has spread across the planet. It really has greatly. How many vegetarian restaurants, for example? How much influencing have the devotees done to attempt to curtail the slaughter of cows, etc. So much has gone on. And Krishna is supporting all of these moods and missions of the devotees. The Krishna consciousness movement is being distributed all over the world through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and people who were leading confused, chaotic lives are now feeling transcendental happiness. They are finding peace in Sankirtan, and therefore they are acknowledging the supreme benefit of this movement. This is the blessing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This prediction is now factually being fulfilled, and those who are sober and conscientious are appreciating the value of this great movement. Actually, this group movement, in a sense, is being embodied in India itself as a nation. Bharatvarsh itself is rising in the material estimation at present. And we will see in a few short years that India will be the leading light of the world, in a sense, because each time there's conflict between India and various other political groups, the Indian mood is always patience and tolerance and respect. It's always like that, because that's its dharma. Its dharma is based on those principles. So when it's relating with different parts of the world, it's relating in that way. So that is being shown right now on the world stage, how India itself is manifesting its greatness as a material nation. But within that material nation, that Bharatvarsh was the land where Krishna walked, where Mahaprabhu walked, where all the avatars walked. So there is such great potency in the land itself. So this land of Bharatvarsh and the people within Bharatvarsh, we see it's going to be described that whenever there are spiritual festivals, hundreds and thousands, even millions of people will attend in India regularly, all over India, in Vrindavan, in Puri, in Sri Rangam, or in Navadvip, all these different places. Hundreds of thousands of people will come. But in other parts of the world, this doesn't go on at all. There's no other country which has that sort of religious foundation to it. So we see as India rises, Mahaprabhu's conceptions will also manifest. The devotees' confidence will manifest. They will find strength and inspiration from that also. Text 41.
Bharat bhumite hoile manusya janma yara, janma sarta kari kara para upakara.
Translation: one who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Purport: the magnanimity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressed in this very important verse. Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis therefore have a special duty towards him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressing not only Bengalis, but all the inhabitants of India. It is in the land of India that actual human civilization can be developed, because it has a foundation. It has this Varnashram system. Since Treta Yuga, Dwarpa Yuga, it was manifested millions and millions of years previously. All the culture and civilization is in India. And if we see in other parts of the world, comparatively, they are, like America, for example, only has a, 350-year history. It basically has no history. It sprang from violence, from those so-called religious Protestants fleeing the persecution in England and Europe, and then they immediately killed all the native inhabitants of the land, along with many of the animals and so on. So it began on violence, and it will conclude on violence, because that's the nature. So that's not called civilization. Actually, India has never invaded another country for at least 50,000 years. There's no description of India invading another country. India doesn't have that mood of wanting to conquer and dominate. It has the mood of wanting to serve and please the Lord. It has that intrinsic nature. Its dharma is like that, especially if we go in the villages. We see its mood is like that. Human life is especially meant for God realization. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignasaha, anyone who takes birth in the land of India, Bharatvash, has a special privilege of being able to take advantage of the instruction and guidance of the Vedic civilization. He automatically receives the basic principles of spiritual life. For 99.9% of the Indian people, even simple village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated, believe in the transmigration of the soul, believe in past and future lives, believe in God, and naturally want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative. These ideas are the natural inheritance of a person born in India. This is true. I'm sure many of the devotees watching will fully understand and appreciate this. India has many holy places of pilgrimage, such as Gaya, Benares, Mathura, Prayag, Vrindavan, Haridwar, Rameshwaram, Jagannath Puri, and still people go there by the hundreds of thousands, actually millions. Although the present leaders of India are influencing the people not to believe in God, not to believe in the next life, and not to believe in the distinction between pious and impious life, and although they are teaching them how to drink wine, eat meat, and become supposedly civilized, people are nevertheless afraid of the four activities of sinful life, namely illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. And whenever there is a religious festival, they gather together by the thousands. But actually the leaders today of India for the last, how long? Almost a decade, has been advocating the principles of Bhagavad Gita. And we just see how the influence of a reasonably pious leader can influence the whole of the land. The whole of the land is much more inclined towards spiritual life now. I mean, at the moment, most of this intoxicating influence has come, in fact, from America. And if you're in touch with the political world, you can see that India, at the moment, is in a mood of leaving everything American aside. This is Krishna's will. This is Mahaprabhu's trick. India is turning its back on the objects of America, and the next thing they will turn their backs on is the sinful life that it incurs. There will be an awakening of purity within this land, and it will attract pure people to support that. And that influence is going to be Mahaprabhu's influence, which is going to spread. So we're seeing it directly as we're speaking now. It's happening today. I was just seeing one post was saying that Indian people are rejecting Coca-Cola, rejecting McDonald's. They're looking for Indian products, perhaps as some type of substitute, but there's a mood of rejection of that Western culture, because India is a very independent nation. They won't be dictated to. They'll be controlled like by the British and so on, but now that was in the past, and the Mughals and so on, but now they've been through that experience, and they will never be controlled by another demonic influence in the same way. So this is very pertinent to this particular present moment that we're speaking. We have actual experience of this. Whenever the Krishna consciousness movement holds a Sankirtan festival in a big city like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Ahmedabad, and Hyderabad, thousands of people come to hear. Sometimes we speak in English, but even though most people do not understand English, they nevertheless come to hear us. Even when imitation incarnations of Godhead speak, people gather in the thousands, For everyone who is born in the land of India has a natural spiritual inclination and is taught the basic principles of spiritual life. They merely need to be a little more educated in the Vedic principles. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Janme Sartak Kari Kara Para Upakara. If an Indian is educated in the Vedic principles, he is able to perform the most beneficial welfare activity for the entire world. So I think many of us will resonate with this, what is happening today on the planet, that the Indian nation is becoming more prominent, and therefore these qualities, these noble qualities, this civilized, it's coming from a civilized place. Millions of years of civilized rule have taken, the Raja Rishis, etc. The great saints and sadhus have walked this land, and it leaves an impact, an impression. At present, for want of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, the entire world is in darkness, having been covered by the four principles of sinful life: meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. Therefore, there is a need for vigorous propaganda to educate people to refrain from sinful activities. Also, a need to educate them in who is Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not a popular avatar. He's not known about. I was actually doing the Radhakund Parikrama the other day in front of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Baitak. And there was two very respectable gentlemen, and they were sitting in front, and no one else was there at the time. And they indicated to me, who is this? Is this some Baba? Is he some philosopher, something? Who is he? And I began to explain, he's actually Swayam Bhagavan, he's the Supreme Lord. Oh, they were very startled. Then the local pujari came in and explained to them very beautifully in Hindi. And they were really impressed, and they really understood. And they took something away of value that they will share, etc. So there's a great dearth of ignorance simultaneously. There may be piety and dharma, but if there's ignorance about the identity of Mahaprabhu, that's a great catastrophe, a great tragedy. So the Hare Krishna movement, through the Bhagavad Gita, through the Srimad Bhagavatam, through this Caitanya Caritamrta, has to be energetically distributed to enlighten and enliven the populace generally into the identity of Mahaprabhu. Without understanding Mahaprabhu, how can we begin to walk towards the Brajadam conceptions, where the most sweet and juicy fruits of this tree are lying there, waiting for us to relish and serve. So we have a duty to educate the ignorant masses here in India. Therefore, there is a need for vigorous propaganda to educate people to refrain from these sinful activities. This will bring peace and prosperity. The rogues, thieves, and debauchees will naturally decrease in number, and all human society will be God-conscious. So I personally feel very hopeful that this is actually taking place right now. This is such a pivotal point in history, right now. The practical effect of our spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world is that now the most degraded debauchees are becoming the most elevated saints. This is only one Indian's humble service to the world. If all Indians had taken to this path, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Now, however, India is known as a poverty-stricken country. So as I said, this is 50 years ago. It's actually, people are beginning to understand that it's not a poverty-stricken country whatsoever. They have more modern facilities. In America, for example, there are so many free food booths for starving people. There are many cities in America where homeless people just take up such a huge part of the cities. There's so much poverty in America, and it will increase in the next 2 or 3 years. And India, actually, in so many places in India, you can't even give away food. Everyone is satisfied. Now, however, India is known as a poverty-stricken country. And whenever anyone from America or another opulent country goes to India, they see many people lying on the footpaths for whom they are not even provisions for 2 meals a day. But this is not the case today. There are not many people lying on the footpaths in India. Where are they? I travel around in Delhi, I travel around in Kolkata. There are beggars, and there are beggars in the Western world begging off the government. There are far more people lying on the streets of the Western world today, proportionately, than there are in India. Far more. It's far more poverty-stricken in the West than it is here now in India. There are also institutions collecting money from all parts of the world in the name of welfare activities for poverty-stricken people, but they are spending it for their own sense gratification. Now, on the order of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement has been started, and people are benefiting from this movement. It's very interesting historically to see how much has happened in the last 50 years. Prabhupada, he planted all these seeds, and because of that energetic mood in every part of the planet, this Hare Krishna movement was actually begun with sincere desire to manifest the teachings of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That's gone on. So the world is definitely being purified at present. Therefore, it is now the duty of the leading men of India to consider the importance of this movement and train many Indians to go outside of India to preach this cult. People will accept it. There will be cooperation among the Indian people and among the other people of the world, and the mission of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu will be fulfilled. I was just watching one video of Modi visiting one country in Africa, and he was saying that Indian people have a nature that wherever they go, they always make friendships, and they always gift the local people with their good qualities, etc. He's saying like this, and we see in many parts of the world where there's Indian populations, they will hold festivals, they'll hold Ratha Yatra festival, etc., distribute prasad, especially the Sikh community. They're always there in the forefront distributing prasadam at so many different events and so on. So we see this already manifesting. So this is written 50 years ago where it hadn't really manifested, but we've seen in that short time now, it's quite remarkable how these truths are happening. And people will naturally be happy, peaceful, and prosperous, not only in this life, but also in the next. For it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, very easily get salvation or freedom from the repetition of birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore requests every Indian to become a preacher of his cult to save the world from disastrous confusion. Yes, and I believe this will take place. This is happening. This is not only the duty of Indians, but the duty of everyone. And we are very happy that American and European boys and girls are seriously cooperating with this movement. One should know definitely that the best welfare activity for all human society is to awaken man's God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. Therefore, everyone should help this great movement. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 35, which is next quoted in the Caitanya Caritamrta. So we'll do that tomorrow. On Thursday, rather. But you understand, you can sense Prabhupada's on fire. Prabhupada's mood is taken Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mission completely to heart. And he left as an old man across the Atlantic, where sannyasis would never travel. So many people were saying, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. Still, he courageously did it. He suffered 2 heart attacks because he was so enthusiastic to spread this mission of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And because of that enthusiasm, within just 10 short years, He actually garlanded the whole planet with the Hare Krishna mantra. Incredible what he accomplished, one man. So we hope others will also take to this highest welfare for humanity, to relieve this burden of material anxiety and stress, etc., becomes completely purified by taking up this Hare Krishna mantra. So many things to say on this point, but you can understand Prabhupada's mood. The mood of Krishna's Kaviraj is the same all the way through, from Rupa Goswami. It's the same all the way through. They're all wanting to gift humanity with the highest welfare conceivable, and that is Siswa Bhakti Shriyam, service to the gopis of Vrindavan. Shri Sachinandan Gaurahari Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai, Sri Satchinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.